All right, today let's give you the takeaways from Lincoln Riley's press conference, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolks? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, gonna run through Lincoln Riley's press conference introducing Jamar Cain and DeMarco Murray as the newest additions to his 2020 coaching staff. These come after Rutherford McNeil had to leave the team to take care of his ailing father, and Jay Boulware decided to jump back to his alma mater, but also OU's mortal enemy in Texas, which led to these additions. But also some news off the top. Oklahoma announced its spring game. It's going to be April 18th. Riley neglected to put a time on that, though he said he wants to give that time as soon as possible because they're still having conversations about whether or not this could be another night game. They put it on Saturday because they wanted to be much, well, let's call it easier on the rest of us who work normal day jobs, and make a Friday night game is going to be really difficult, whereas making a Saturday game, not so much, and then you get time to get back home if that's what you want to do. I'm sure they're going to have other festivities about this. One of the probably is going to be a spring concert, to which I'm going, yo, call NF up. You don't have to make this hard. You don't have to put another country music artist out here. But if that's what you're going to do, that's what you're going to do. All right, that's enough about the spring game. He mentioned the early enrollees, but he also mentioned Chandler Morris, Reggie Grimes, and of course Josh Eaton, calling Josh Eaton one of the better cornerbacks that they evaluated, that they like. He also worked in a shot about everybody wants to evaluate a class after they sign, which is the worst possible time to evaluate a class, is right when they sign, to which I would say, first of all, you tell us what other networks are doing the work. Then you tell us what other networks are actually putting together these capsules to allow people to evaluate the kids. And then argue about the evaluations, right? Because we can go back and we can re-rank the Clemson 2017 class, which is ranked number 16th in the country, finished in the college football playoff national championship game. So I got stuff for you if you want to talk about that one, Lincoln. Now, he did continue to go on and say, look, we like Chandler Morris more than we liked every quarterback. Okay. He actually called Chandler Morris their favorite quarterback in 2020. I don't buy that. I don't buy that because he offered it to Bryce Young, and Bryce Young was down to Oklahoma or USC at the time. This is July of 2019, and he picked, no, not July 2019, July 2018, and he picked USC, and then he eventually ends up flipping to Alabama. He wanted Bryce Young. He also knew that Spencer Rattler was already going to be there. So you can talk about competition if you want to, but don't tell us that that was the guy that you wanted all along when we all know that Bryce Young was at the top of your list, okay? Chandler Morris is a great quarterback, though, and I think that he has an opportunity to play and play really well, but we all think that this is Rattler's time. Curiously enough, Lincoln Riley didn't have any questions about Spencer Rattler or Tanner Mordecai. Just that winter training is going well. Also talked about Reggie Grimes playing some tailback, which he absolutely loved to see out of his defensive end outside linebacker signee. And we can continue to talk about what this 2020 class might be able to do, but what we do know is that you got more than half the class enrolled early, which is a big deal. Also changes their development in a very real way, right? Guys like Shane Witter are going to have an opportunity to play right away. Seth McGowan fits that mold as well. We also have Bryson Washington who fits that mold, and we continue to go on. Marvin Mims fits that mold. So you have guys that are going to benefit from doing this, and I've encouraged many to enroll early whenever they have the opportunity to do so. I'm also going to touch on Kobe McKenzie choosing to reclassify for the 2021 class because I had the privilege of talking with his dad about this in another upload, but I do know about it, and we will touch on it. Getting back to this press conference, Riley talked at length about DeMarco Murray and Jamar Cain in addition to the new signees, and I thought there were a couple of things that were revealing about how they ended up at Oklahoma. The first one is DeMarco Murray was wildly good at this press conference. And I understand he has a background as a television analyst. I understand that he's a very charismatic guy when he wants to be. But he was so utterly just receptive and humble and genuflecting, really, to all the coaches that had come before him, but not in a way that made it sound like he was patronizing or just putting on airs. No, he was genuinely sitting there as the running backs coach and not one of the career leader in touchdowns scored at Oklahoma or an all-pro running back for the Dallas Cowboys. That was nice to see. Also, his polo fit him way too well. He is going to break A lot of hearts. And I mean that. Dude looked good in that polo. But Riley also kind of told on him, which I enjoyed. He related this story about DeMarco Murray and how he ended up at Oklahoma. When news broke that the running back's position was going to be open, DeMarco Murray sent an eye emoji text to Cale Gundy. Gundy was out with Riley recruiting in the Dallas area at the time, and he immediately showed the text to Lincoln Riley. And Riley smiled about that because when he told this story at the press conference, DeMarco didn't know that he knew that story. But he interviewed DeMarco and he hired him for the job, while also getting in the winning quote of the day, which is, there's no question who the best athlete is on our staff right now, which I really enjoyed as much as everybody else. But I also enjoyed hearing DeMarco Murray actually not sugarcoat or make it seem easier than it is to be the running backs coach at Oklahoma. As a fact, when he was asked, hey, did you talk to Cale Gundy about this? Because he was your guy when you were here at Oklahoma, obviously helped recruit you to the place along with Kevin Sumlin. He said, yeah. But the first person I called was Jason Witten, who was a close friend of his, and I'm assuming still is. Second person he called was Bob Stoops, who obviously he still talks with. And then he said Gundy was like third or fourth. I thought that would have been a great opportunity to, quite honestly, lie about it and just say, no, I called Cale first to make the story better. And many people do that, right? But he didn't do that. He was trying to be as honest as he could, and he was very sheepish about Riley telling that story because he did not want anybody to believe that he was expecting to get special treatment because he was a great football player as a football coach. Now, we all know the advantage that he is going to have walking into any running back's home as DeMarco Murray, but he also went to great lengths to say that's not a recruiting pitch to me. That's not why you come to Oklahoma. That's not how I would convince you to try to come. I think he knows and I know, but that's not an advantage to me. And I thought that was exactly what I wanted to hear, because that, I think, is going to be the reason why he rises so quickly. You don't need to talk about who you are. We all know who you are. You need to talk about what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, and how this kiddo can help you get there. He also talked about how, even during his time, that things had changed a little bit in the way they recruited, which is interesting to hear because Murray came out of high school the same year that I did. Okay? Maybe it's just because I've been talking to kids the whole time. But he said back in my day, it was about tradition, and it was about, what the school was about. Now it's about uniforms and some other stuff. And I'm like, nah, it's always been about that. Oregon was a power when you were in school. Boise State was becoming a power when you were getting to Oklahoma. I don't know. Perhaps it's because I've spent most of my time just getting to know the kids and being very, very, very involved in college football in a way that, frankly, he hadn't had to, right? He was playing the NFL. So I'm sure that there's some disconnect there, but he's 31. I'm 32, right? Riley also talked about bringing in a guy at 31, not unlike he was brought in 2015, and chuckled about it. He was asked about how he went about evaluating bringing in Jamar Cain and DeMarco Murray, and what he allowed for was, I know what I know. I know that when I like a guy, I want to hire a guy. I don't interview a whole bunch of guys. I put together my list, and if I see something that I like, I ask to interview the guy. In the case of Jamar Cain, he said, here's a guy who has succeeded and won everywhere he's been. And those places include North Dakota State, Fresno State, Wyoming, and Arizona State, okay? After coming out of New Mexico. And he said, look, he's developed kids. He's been very good on staffs, and his staff chemistry was a big part of why he brought in both of those guys, because, look, I think most of us would agree. Having a workplace environment that is filled with a bunch of people that you want to be around is the dream. And you don't want to bring in anybody to that process that's going to upset the equilibrium of your unit. You want someone who's going to contribute to it, because it's one thing to be a great individual, or in this case, a great assistant. It's another thing altogether to be a great member of a team. And that part is underrated by folks on the outside. I'll grant that as well. So having guys that fit in, that everybody else wants on the staff, is also huge. Now you have 3 guys that played at Oklahoma on the staff, to which Riley says it ain't going to get you a job. It's a tremendous benefit, but it ain't going to get you a job, and I don't think it should get you a job. He also said, I'm not really interested in what your resume might be outside of did you win, and I think that he learned from Leach in this way. If he likes you and he thinks that you're going to work hard and you're going to fit in, you have something to prove, he's going to hire you, and he's probably going to look good for doing it. We could all say that about Leach. When you look at all the assistants that he's put into the world who have either become coordinators or head coaches or even just great position coaches like Bill Bedenbaugh, for instance, you can come to understand why Mike Leach is so good at evaluating talent. But one of the things that Mike Leach is also very good at is bucking trend or going against tradition. If he thinks that you are here to prove that you're supposed to be here, he's going to hire you. And Riley went to great lengths to say, look, even at this height that I have achieved, I still wake up every day thinking I got something to prove, like the first day I started coaching. Somebody believes I shouldn't be here. And maybe it's that Riley's still having to prove that to himself that he's supposed to be here. Maybe it's that he's trying to prove to other folks that he's supposed to be here. As a chippy person, equally balanced with one on each shoulder, I feel that in my spirit. And I love that about the head coach at Oklahoma. I also enjoyed that the only time that DeMarco Murray and Jamar Cain had actually seen each other was when Arizona and Arizona State played last November. Arizona State's defense got the better of Arizona's running attack. Murray said, hey, I'm glad to be on the same team with you. My backs didn't do well against your defensive line. Now we get to work together. Lincoln wanted to clarify that Jamar Cain is the outside linebackers and defensive ends coach, that Calvin Thibodeau is very much the defensive line coach. And because the front is multiple, that's why you need the two different coaches. However you want to draw it up is however you want to draw it up. I'm not going to really get upset one way or the other about that. I just want to know who the play caller is, right? And Grinch is the play caller and Lincoln's the play caller. But he also wanted to highlight that recruiting defensively this year was outstanding. And the way that he chose to couch this was, it felt like recruiting at Oklahoma offensively after our 2015 season, when folks had seen what we were able to do and seen us make a tremendous leap forward and say, what would happen if they get me for 3 to 4 years? And then, as he mentioned, guys like Marquise Brown bought in, CeeDee Lamb bought in, Creed Humphrey bought in, Kyler Murray bought in. And you have two of the most prolific offenses in the history of the sport. You have two Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks. You have what many people believe is the best interior lineman in the 2020 class, for the 2021 NFL draft class in Creed Humphrey. You're able to continue to build on that. And Jamar Cain was asked, what convinced you to come to Oklahoma? And then he gave the stock line of, you don't say no to Oklahoma. Well, yes, people do all the time. All right? We don't like it, and we don't like to think that they do, but they say no all the time. It's like saying no to a hot woman. Yeah, somebody told her no. Maybe it wasn't you this time. And it wasn't Jamar Cain this time. But he said, what attracted me, obviously, I want to work with Coach Riley, but I also want to work with Coach Grinch. Because as he illustrated, that man had a top 25 defense. He tried to give him a top 10 defense. That ain't quite true, Jamar. But he had a top 25 defense at Washington State. And the underlying theory there is, what if he had the same caliber of players that USC had when he was at Washington State that Oklahoma can get? You're going to be a really great defense. And Jamar Cain wanted to be a part of that. And he was over the moon to get this job. And I'm very excited to hear about anybody who's over the moon to get any job. That would include myself. Like, you've seen me break down and cry over some of the opportunities that I've had. And I root for people like Jamar Cain. I also am coming to root for DeMarco Murray in a different way, because I was not all in on this hire at the time that it was made. But having heard him talk for about 20 minutes, answer everyone's question as well as he could, as honestly as he could, while being tremendously humble, while also acknowledging I knew that I wanted to coach, I didn't know what the timeline was. And also acknowledging I've only done this for a year. But there are things, obviously, that Murray picked up while he was being coached that allowed him to be a better coach. Not everybody's built that way. And I think that's why Kevin Sumlin was quick to say, DeMarco Murray's going to rise really fast. Because he's a quick study, he listens, and he does not think that he needs to do it his way. He's willing to learn how you do it and try to adapt to that. And I can appreciate that, because it's one thing to say, I'm talented, but are you talented within the box that we're creating for you to be successful in? And I think Murray is going to be. He's got a really good room in there. Ramondre Stevenson, Kennedy Brooks, Trey Sermon, Seth McGowan, Marcus Major, TJ Pledger. It's got a good room, guys. Lincoln did address the suspensions only to say that the process is ongoing, and I'll have more to say about those guys later. Okay? Lots more news that came out of this, but those are the points that I think you need to know right away, and we'll continue to unpack this as we go through this slog of an off season where we got more than 200 days left until we get college football in Oklahoma again. All right, that is it for me. Deuces.